Welcome to the official Heisman Trophy podcast.
Hello, Heisman.
Chuck Conrad with a kickoff. Roy has a strong leg, end over end. Sanders takes it 1 yard deep in the end zone. Up the middle, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. He's at the 40. He's at 45, 50, 45, 40, 35, 30, 25, 20, 50, 10, 5. Touchdown, Cowboys. Just like last year, a same start.
And the winner is...
Here's your host, Chris Houston.
All right, welcome back to another episode of the official Heisman Trophy podcast. I hope everyone had a great Labor Day weekend watching all those games. I got to tell you, there's nothing quite like sinking into the couch cushions and letting college football wash all over you. We've got another great show for you this week featuring this guy.
Back on offense, Ashton Jeanty, breaks free. Has a player tracking him down. It's TJ Smith. Can he get to him? Jeanty, touchdown, get out of town. 75 yards, a new school record, 6 touchdowns today.
If you don't know about Boise State junior running back Ashton Jeanty, you soon will. He rushed for a school record 267 yards and 6 touchdowns in the opener against Georgia Southern. But it wasn't just a matter of him going up against an overmatched opponent. This is one of the best players in the country. He's going to kick off this week's episode, and then we're going to follow that up with Nicole Auerbach of NBC Sports, who is simply one of the best college football writers around, and I think you're going to appreciate her insights on everything that happened this past weekend in college football. And then we're going to close out the show by featuring one of the many charities that is supported by the Heisman Trophy Trust. We'll be joined by Bridge Lacrosse Executive Director David Higbee to tell us about his efforts in bringing lacrosse to underserved communities in Texas. So let's get started with our first guest, Ashton Jeanty. We actually recorded the first part of this interview last week before his first game, and we were fortunate enough to check in with him afterwards to get his reaction to what turned out to be an incredible performance against Georgia Southern. And let me tell you, there's a propensity among college football observers out there to just dismiss players like Ashton Jeanty. And just because he wasn't hyped up during the recruiting process, and just because he didn't end up at one of the quote-unquote elite Power 5 teams, doesn't mean he's not a great player. And so I challenge you to go watch his highlights on YouTube and tell me, who's a better running back than this guy? Boise State is certainly excited. They've begun a Heisman campaign on his behalf. They're selling Heisman t-shirts promoting Jeanty on the school website, and these are worthy endeavors on behalf of a player who seems primed to have a huge season. So let's play the interview. Ashton Jeanty was possibly the best-kept secret in college football last season. As a 2023 sophomore, the Boise State Broncos running back rushed for 1,347 yards and 14 touchdowns, despite missing almost 3 full games. He also showed his versatility by catching 43 passes for 568 yards and another 5 scores, making him the first player since 2019 to rack up 1,000 rushing yards and 500 receiving yards in the same season. This year, the word is out, and he is a preseason All-American and one of the best players in the country, which is why he joins us today on the official Heisman Trophy podcast. Ashton, thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You know, one of the things that really sticks out about you and which everyone talks about is your unique strength. You can squat 600 pounds or so, maybe more by now, I don't know. You're very hard to wrap up in the open field, and defenders just seem to bounce off you. Where does all this strength come from?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just blessed by God with, just natural strength. But I'll say I get it from my dad because, he used to work on the farm and stuff when he was younger. So I think he passed that over to me. And then just, how the strength staff has helped us make gains in the weight room, just pushing us each and every single day. And, this is the strongest I've been, and not only me, but the team has been since I've been here.
Well, being in a military family, you spent time in Naples, Italy before you went to high school, and you played on an Italian team. What's the football like there?
It's not like it is out here, but, it's definitely great football. And, I'm glad that I got to experience playing football over there and, travel to different countries to play games, which was really cool and, a great experience. But competition level definitely isn't as high as it is in the U.S.
Right. Parli Italiano?
No.
I was going to ask you if it's true that Naples has the best pizza in Italy. I was going to do it in Italian, though. But
yeah, I don't know. Because I had pizza all over, but I'd probably say when I was in Rome, they had some of the best pizza for sure.
All right. Your family moved back to the States in time for high school, and you wound up in Frisco, Texas. That's Class 5A in Texas football, which is big time. How was that adjustment for you coming from Italian football and playing in that style, coming over back to the U.S.? What was that adjustment like?
Yeah, it definitely was a big adjustment just to the speed and, the level of players that I was playing against week in and week out. And then, I came in as a sophomore and we had a lot of great players. So I actually didn't even get to play on offense at all. I was playing defense. I was playing edge, linebacker, safety, a lot of special teams. So wherever they needed me, but I was able to just hone in on my skills and, get better each and every day and keep developing and to, be able to become the player that I am now.
Well, what made them decide to move you from defense over to offense? Did you get an interception and look really good with the ball in your hands or something? What was the process that made them change their way of thinking?
Yeah, so I think they were just able to see my athleticism every day, me playing on defense. And then some games, I think it was when we were playing Liberty, they had a mobile quarterback. So they had me play quarterback on the scout team for the defense. And, I was running around, juking guys, kind of showing off my offensive ability pretty much. So I think that's what really did it.
Yeah, were you thinking like, this is my chance? I'm going to get away from this side of the ball. I want the ball in my hands.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I was trying to show them that I could be a player for us on offense every day, like every chance I got.
Well, as a senior in high school, you rushed for over 1,800 yards, 31 touchdowns, had over 800 receiving yards, already showing the versatility, 41 total touchdowns. I saw some highlights of you at Lone Star, and a couple things stood out. First, you're great at making the first guy miss. Second, when a defender tries to tackle you high, you just kind of brush them off like it was no big deal. You're just like blowing them, And then lastly, you've got this incredible balance. You even when you get tripped up, you've got this great center of gravity, able to stay on your feet. Was there anything you did in particular to develop these skills, or did this all kind of come naturally?
Yeah, I think some of it came naturally, but I worked a lot on, my agility, making different cuts, just being dynamic. And then I would just say, the work in the weight room, it goes a long way to breaking tackles, especially at running back, having strong legs and a strong upper body, it's easy to shrug those guys off of you when you're running full speed.
Right. Now, given your size, I'm sure you get a lot of comparisons to various running backs. There's a lot of great, smaller backs out there. But to me, the comparison I see is to the great Maurice Jones-Drew. Who do you model your game after?
I'd definitely say a lot, like more modern day. I would say Alvin Kamara, just with him being versatile. But I would just say with mentality, I would say for sure Marshawn Lynch, just that mentality to run through the whole defense, but I get comparisons to a lot of different running backs, but with that, I try to take something from all the different great running backs, just look at all the things they were able to do well and, just try to apply that to my game.
Yeah. You had your pick of several schools during the recruiting process. What led you to decide to play for Boise State? Was it the Blue Field?
That was definitely a part of it. Blue Field is special. Can't go wrong with that, but definitely just, the culture, the winning tradition here. Everybody wants to win and, what's better than to go to a program that has a winning history, since before I was even alive,
right?
And just the constant development in producing running backs, every year, honestly, it's just a high level of development for that position here. And, I wanted to be the next person, in line, to carry on the torch.
Yeah. You had a really nice freshman year, a couple breakout games against Fresno State and North Texas, over 800 yards rushing. Then last year, you took over the starting role, had a great season. What are your personal goals for this year?
Personal goals would be for sure just to be a great leader on this team. And, bring guys along with me each and every single day. And then, for us to win, go undefeated this year and, win the Mountain West Championship and make history, make our first appearance in the college football playoffs. And, my O-line, me and my O-lineman, Mason Randolph, we actually made a bet. If I rush for 2,000, then we just changed it now, so I don't have to cut my dreads. So if I don't rush for 2,000, I gotta cut my dreads off. But so I gotta get 2,000 rushing yards for sure.
Well, so you are going to cut your dreads off if you get 2,000, or I thought you changed
No,
a bit? Or
We changed it, so if I get 2,000 rushing yards, then I don't have to cut them. So if I get
got it.
1,949, then I gotta cut them off.
Oh man! So how long did it take you to grow? Have you just been growing those for most of your adult life now, or?
Yeah, pretty much since I've gotten to college. So it's been about 2.5 years now.
Well, it won't be that much of a loss. I'm sure it's an easy trade off for you.
Yeah, for sure.
That's a great goal, 2,000 yards. When did you come up with that, and why that number?
That's kind of always been my goal in my career as a running back, to rush for 2,000. I feel like, that will really put me on top and, solidify me as one of the best pure rushers in the nation.
Yeah. Well, it's a great goal. You've been named a team captain for this year. How has that changed your mentality heading into your junior season? You're underclassmen, now you're upperclassmen. What's changed for you?
Yeah, I feel I've always had the mentality of just being a leader and being a great example. But now that spotlight has been put on me as one of the team captains, just taking it to the next level and, really understanding that I have to come ready each and every single day, and I have to bring guys along with me. And not only that, just, serving my teammates, being able to help them with whether it's on the field or off the field, and, having great relationships with them so that when, it's time to hold them accountable, they understand, and we have that type of relationship where, they take it well, and, they want to be better.
Yeah. What kind of changes have you seen at Boise since the hiring of Spencer Danielson? You guys opened with 2 games on the road. You got number 3 Oregon. What's the outlook on the team from the inside?
I mean, number one, just the love. Coach D says he loves us every day. So just him spreading love and, like the care factor, like guys really care about their teammates. Guys really want to be here. Guys really want to work hard and, go to battle, go to war for their brothers. And, that's raised the urgency level each and every day, just how we attack practice, meetings, weightlifting in the weight room. Like every single thing matters. Every detail matters, because we're not just coming to do, regular things. We're coming to make history this year.
Yeah. What do you know about the Heisman Trophy? Do you have any favorite winners in the past or people that you followed?
Yeah, I would say I think it was in 2016, right, when Derrick Henry won the Heisman Award. Definitely just him being from Florida, actually, Jacksonville. I'm from Jacksonville, but, a few of my family members grew up in South Florida, and, they were just always talking about how he was crazy in high school. And, so just to see him go and win that award and, it being hard to win it as a non-QB, I think, that gives me more motivation that, it's been done before and not too long ago, honestly.
Well, you certainly are the modern running back with the receiving and the ability to be versatile, and you're taking snaps out of the Wildcat, and they're putting you in motion and stuff. With the changes in the running back position, is this something that you're really continuing to work on because you can be more valuable at the next level?
Yeah, I definitely take it serious, especially with the way the game has changed. If you can be a versatile back and, receive the ball out of the backfield, even lining up in the slot and the outside and, getting the ball in space and, making plays, it takes your game to the next level, and it makes you more valuable to NFL teams and also college football teams.
Now let's jump forward a few days to Tuesday, when we caught up with Jeanty following his epic performance. Wow, 267 yards, 20 carries, 6 touchdowns, 13.4 yards per carry, Mountain West record for touchdowns, and a 56-45 victory over Georgia Southern. What got into you? How do you feel after that great game?
Feeling great, of course, but, I got to give kudos to my O-line. They did a great job of blocking the whole game. I mean, just some of those lanes I ran through, like, I would have been mad at myself if I didn't score.
Right.
And just to my offensive staff, just getting us great run looks and a great run game plan for this week. And, we just were able to bring that to life on Saturday.
Now, if it's okay, I want to go over a few of your scores because I think they really reflect the kind of player you are. TD number 1, counter left play from your own 23. As usual, you make the first guy miss. Then the strong safety comes over. You break his tackle at around the 40. You break one more around the 15 or so, and you jaunt in 77 yards. You crack the Heisman pose at the end. Tell me about that play.
Yeah. Once again, O-line did a great job blocking. And like you said, I feel like that shows who I am as a runner. First guy's not going to make the tackle, but, when I get that much space, I'm going to go score, break it however many tackles I have to. And then, just to set the tone for the year that, I'm fully chasing after that award, and I fully feel like I can get to that.
TD number 2, a simple off-tackle play to the strong side from the opponent 26. You picked up an amazing block on the edge, double team. You again make the first guy miss. You have an amazing spin move. And when you stuck that spin move, what really struck me is you were already moving forward when you landed. And then you had 4 more missed tackles, and then you're in the end zone. Tell me about how that one transpired.
Yeah, so I think week in and week out, my running back coach, Coach James Montgomery, he does a great job at giving us footwork drills, different drills, to get our footwork better each and every single day. And then just working on that every day. During the off season up until now, footwork each and every single week. So that when it comes into the big moments, you can make big plays like that. But, sometimes even watching it, I don't know how I do it, but it's just a testament to the work that I put in. And, you keep working on your craft and perfecting it, and the big plays will come.
Now, at this point in the game, you're feeling it. Touchdowns 3, 4, and 5. You punched it in from short yardage, showing your ability as a short yardage back. And then touchdown number 6 was pure speed, going to your left, 75 yards, basically untouched to the goal line. How did you have the gas left in the tank at this point to just run away from people at this point in the game?
I'd say from the way that we practice, we work very hard and strain in practice. And, Coach D says all the time, practice is supposed to be harder than game day. So on game days, just like that, I can make plays like that and be able to finish in the end of the game. It was a hot one. I actually caught a cramp on that run. It was crazy. And I hit 22.
Yeah, I thought I saw you coming off the field.
Yeah, I was laid out, man. It was pretty bad, but just that extreme conditioning we have in practice to be able to finish plays, and during practice, even if it's not actually going to be a touchdown, I'm still running, still finishing like I'm about to go score.
Your school is now promoting you for the Heisman Trophy. There are T-shirts touting you for the Heisman. What do you think about all this Heisman buzz?
I think it's a great place to be, but also I don't want to lose myself in that. And, I just want to keep focusing on the main thing, and that's winning each and every week. And, things like that will keep coming along with that, our team performance.
You traveled to number 6 Oregon on Saturday. Outson Stadium is always a tough place to play. How are you feeling physically after that cramp, and what do you have to do to help your team pull off the big upset?
Yeah, the body's a little sore, but, that's the name of the game. But, just getting in the room, getting recovery and getting my body back right. But it's the same thing as last week, just being elite in our preparation. And, our coaches are giving us a great plan to go attack Oregon. And just like we did last week, executing and bringing that to life. And, no matter where we're playing at, we come to dominate.
Ashton Jeanty, 267 yards, 6 touchdowns, school records against Georgia Southern last week, plays Oregon on Saturday. Good luck against the Ducks, and hopefully we'll see you down the road.
Yep. Thank you so much.
Hi, this is Billy Sims, 1978 Heisman Trophy winner. You are listening to the official Heisman Trophy podcast. Boomer!
The Heisman is handed out every December, but the history of the trophy lives year-round at Heisman.com. Home to the most iconic trophy in sports, Heisman.com tells the stories of all 88 of our winners and features news, bios, and statistics on all your favorite Heisman heroes. Heisman.com also highlights our Heisman humanitarians, the many charities supported by the Heisman Trust, and so much more. Make Heisman.com your first stop for all things Heisman. Nicole Auerbach is NBC's leading college football insider. Prior to her current gig, she was a senior writer at The Athletic, a studio analyst for the Big Ten Network, and a radio host for Sirius XM. In 2021, she became the youngest ever winner of the National Sports Media Association's coveted National Sports Writer of the Year award. Nicole, thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, happy to be here.
You know, the last 9 days, starting with the game in Dublin with Florida State and Georgia Tech, have been a bit of a whirlwind. All kinds of intriguing matchups and outcomes, but there were 3 games between ranked teams that loomed largest, I thought. Obviously, number 1 Georgia beat number 14 Clemson, number 7 Notre Dame beat number 20 Texas A&M, and number 23 USC beat number 13 LSU. What were your main takeaways from these games?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there were a lot of blowouts across the board over week 1 where we learned what we thought about different teams. But then like some of these results were really interesting. I mean, the fact that Miami could be back, the fact that Miami puts it together and like on paper coming into the season, you're saying, hey, this should be a contender. Like this could be an ACC favorite. This could be a college football playoff team. And then to actually see it come into fruition and to pull away at the Swamp, to see Cam Ward be capable of a Heisman Trophy campaign, like all of that was incredibly impressive, I thought. And really, you got to consider them the favorites in the ACC, especially with how FSU and Clemson started their seasons. And then I think a couple other main takeaways was that USC really does seem to be improved defensively. And boy, is Miller Moss good. I wasn't sure, right? Like, you know, Lincoln Riley didn't go into the portal and get some high profile quarterback transfer. He went with the guy who's been there, who's been waiting in the wings. And he was phenomenal under pressure, especially down the stretch in that game against LSU. Other big takeaways, I mean, Georgia is Georgia. Like that is clearly, I think, the best team in college football until proven otherwise. Clemson was able to hang with them for a half, right? Defense is still really good, still got a lot of questions offensively for the Tigers, but Georgia just wears everybody down. They are so talented and so good. And they've always got somebody who can step up as a receiver. So it was just a really interesting opening weekend. I feel like we actually got some answers about some of these teams that we've been waiting to see if they were going to fix things or address things or take a next step forward, and they did. Yeah. I'm kind of curious where you stand on this question. I asked Pat Forty a couple weeks ago and Tom Fornelli about the sort of, there's the extreme of going out and getting guys in the transfer portal and really relying on that. Everyone talks about Ohio State's huge efforts in the offseason. Oregon, of course, is continuously just bringing in players. And then you have other approaches where it's like maybe a mix of those two things. And then you have Dabo Swinney over there, not wanting to do as much NIL. And I think this seems to be two positions where some coaches are like, well, I want to build a team and I don't need to have buy all these players and I'm going to develop guys over time. And then there's these other programs that are just like, we're just going to try to get these guys in, plug them in and win now. And I thought based on the first week, and obviously it's way too early to say for sure, but Oregon kind of struggled a bit. Ohio State got off to a slow start. And obviously Georgia pummeled Clemson, but USC, which has been taking more of the long-term approach, looked pretty good. Where do you stand on what's going to be the final outcome of this argument about which is the best way to run your program? Well, I think it's probably going to include a good healthy dose of the portal because it's such an important piece of roster construction because it allows you to address a weakness or deficiency quickly. Like that's where I think Clemson has really struggled is it's not like they need to be Colorado and like a full overhaul and use the portal, but they're not using it the way like some of the teams you're giving as examples. Yeah. They're not using it even the way Georgia used it this offseason, right? Like Florida State's been a great example the last couple of years because they've had a really high hit rate on the guys that they've brought in, but it's like supplements. It's like, oh, hey, we could use a really great receiver or we could use some depth in the receiver room. That's where we're going to go. Right. And meanwhile, Clemson, and I get that they think that they're still getting great high school recruits, like they really trust that, but it's just not an immediate fix. So if you have issues in the receiving room, or maybe the quarterback was either misidentified or not developing the way that you want them to, it takes multiple years to get somebody to the position, to get them into your program, but then to be developing them or them in the weight room to be able to play and to be an impact player, where all of your competitors, at least at the top echelon of college football, they're fixing it faster. They're addressing their needs faster. So to me, I think even if you have some of these slow starts or it takes a little while to break somebody into your offensive scheme or defensive scheme, it's still worth it because this is something that the coaches identified, an area of need, and they're addressing it quickly. And they know that it'll take a little bit to piece it together, but they trust in that process versus not addressing it or saying like, we're going to address it next year or in the next recruiting class. Like that's just not how anyone else is operating at that top level of college football.
Right. And it's a whole new process because the coaches that can most quickly adapt these new guys into their program are going to be the ones that make it actually work the most, right?
Yeah. I mean, and that's why like, I think Dan Lanning is such a good example of like where college football is today, like a great head coach example of that, because he embraces all of that. They have one of the most enviable quarterback rooms in the country. They got two of those guys. They bring in Dalen Gabriel, most experienced. We've seen him go out and win games like Red River. Like we know a lot about him. And I trust that he is going to have a really good season at Oregon. He put up great numbers despite the score and despite the closeness and weirdness of that Idaho game. But they've also got Dante Moore waiting in the wings. So next year they're well positioned and they actually have depth in that room, which is also really hard to do. But, you know, he gets it. Like he gets what he needs to have from an NIL standpoint, a resource standpoint, how he wants to approach guys in the portal and also recruit at an incredibly high level out of high school. Like he embraces all of the things that we hear a lot of coaches complain about in college football today. And I think the portal is absolutely part of it. And you see the guys that embrace it or at least have honest conversations with the players that they're looking at. Those are the ones that are getting the best players out of the portal and putting them in positions to be impact guys.
Yeah. You mentioned USC earlier, but what other teams were way better than you thought they'd be or looked way better than you thought they would be in week one?
Yeah, so Miami is number one on that category. Not just like, it's just that I thought they could be really good and they actually showed it. And Cam Ward was phenomenal, right? Like that, the Cam Ward sweepstakes of where he was going to go in the offseason and if he was going to go to the NFL, like absolutely worth all the hype because he is that type of game changer. But I'm going to say Penn State. I thought that the Penn State offense, it's our first look of what they look like with head coach or offensive coordinator Andy Kotelnicki. That was a confident, explosive, and really productive offense. And we have been waiting a couple of years to see that. Like Drew Aller looked totally different. That's the best we've seen him. He was emotional, but he just felt like he had command of an offense that could beat you in a lot of different ways. They were aggressive right before the half. They were going for the jugular. Like they were just doing things that we haven't seen because they've been so conservative the last few years. And the whole narrative around them last year was like, can they have a single explosive play? And you saw that they were really pushing it and they were really trying to control a game that way. I thought Penn State, West Virginia, I love that they play each other. I would love them and Pitt to just kind of like cycle through each other every single year because of the regionalness of those rivalries. I thought it would be a closer game than it was. And it just wasn't because Penn State really showed us something different. And I think, you know, for a team that I think faces a lot of pressure in the first year of the 12-team playoff because they've been the poster child for this of like, hey, you would have been in this if this existed over the last decade. I think there's a lot of pressure with that to make it this year. And this was, I think, maybe the best coordinator hire of the entire offseason cycle. And we're seeing that play out because I did wonder, you know, hey, is he going to be able to do the stuff that we saw him do at Kansas with this roster, with this talent? And I think you've got to be incredibly excited about what you saw from the Nittany Lions. Yeah, there are definitely some major changes in the offseason that really showed the sense of urgency among some coaches. Flipping things around, what teams look worse than how you thought they'd be in week one? Well, I mean, like the teams on the losing end of some of those marquee games, right? So, you know, I think got to have the concerns about Clemson. We were just talking about them, about an offense, quarterback, receivers that look average. Like we were used to not seeing average players in that offense. They've had different coordinators, they've had different quarterbacks, and they still have the same kind of issues over multiple years. So I think you still got to have, you know, the alarm bells going off there. Florida, that was, you know, just a really frustrating performance. I think not just because it's an in-state rival that also needed to prove something, but the penalties, like the little things that you would think would be cleared up a couple years into a head coach's tenure. There's just nothing to be excited about. And I think that's what's really frustrating there. And the reason that the hot seat gets even hotter for Billy Napier is because of a performance like that it wasn't a competitive game that Miami really like. And we saw the videos, right, of all the recruits, the Florida recruits, like the Miami players, like dapping them up and being like, basically saying, hey, you should just come to Miami instead. That's like a terrible look. Like, that's just like, salt in the wound. For Florida, and it was just a no good, very bad day for them. So I think that puts, obviously an even hotter seat under Napier. And then LSU, Brian Kelly pounded the table. We've all seen the clips of how angry he was after that game. But this is the third straight season opener he's lost at LSU. There were a couple even before that with Ed Ogeron. But, it's the way that they're losing these games that I think is really frustrating, because they're right there in them and they could win them if they could just get a couple stops. They could just complete a couple passes. I think you had a lot that you liked out of Garrett Nussmeier. You saw defensive improvement on that side of the ball for them as well in this game. But for USC to win the game the way that they did, especially I think for it to be a touchdown when it looked like they were setting up to win on a field goal, I can see why Brian Kelly was so frustrated, but those are not the types of games that you should and could lose at LSU if you want to be a true national title contender. And they do, right? They wanted to fix the defense. They go out and they make Brian Baker the highest paid defensive coordinator. And then they have a game like this that's just, it was there for the grasping and they couldn't do it. I think that's really, really frustrating. And it's not going to get easier. I mean, these SEC and these Big Ten teams, the schedules are so much harder this year because of expansion and realignment. So, I think you've got to be very angsty and antsy if you're an LSU fan.
Yeah. A couple individual performances really stood out to me. Ashton Jeanty at Boise State, who, by the way, is one of the guests on this episode, ran for a school record 267 yards and 6 touchdowns. And then Tedero McMillan of Arizona caught 10 passes for 304 yards and 4 scores for Arizona. Obviously, these numbers came against lesser competition, but they were impressive nonetheless. I'm curious, do you think these kinds of opening statements help to put these two in the spotlight moving forward when it comes to talking about Heisman consideration?
Yeah, because you've got entire offenses that would have taken that stat line as their entire offensive production for a game and been thrilled with it. These are the kinds of performances, regardless of where they're played or the competition or what time of day, that they stick with you and they keep you in the Heisman conversation, really all the individual award conversations for longer, because you become a household name if you get it, if you get brought up like this and you get highlighted, and all you need is the highlights literally of what we saw from these guys. I hope that, did you get Ashton? Was that already locked in, or was he just, you're lucky to get in there on demand after the 6 touchdowns?
Well, it's funny. We've had a little knack here on the show of getting guys just before they blow up. We had Cam Ward on the show early last year. Obviously Ashton Jeanty. We had Miller Moss on the last episode too. We actually were doing a segment on Moss and Nussmeier, the replacements, replacing the Heisman winners. And we couldn't get Nussmeier, but we did get Moss, and he won the game. So it's kind of an inside joke over here that if you come on the show, it's a little bit of good luck. Can you tell me your schedule for the coming weeks, just so I know what's about to happen in college football? That'd be really helpful. I'll shoot you a text as soon as I find out.
But yeah, I mean, those guys, I think it's awesome. And I would also throw, I know it feels like it's been forever ago now, but Travis Hunter and what he did in Colorado's opener as a two-way player. I just, me, I mean, I love guys that when we talk Heisman that are not just quarterbacks. Right. And I love when guys stay in the mix because they're incredible talents, but also defensive guys that are, doing an insane workload like Travis Hunter. But all the players that we've been talking about, they're all must-see TV. I mean, I don't care what the score is in the game that they're playing, because I just want to see what they might be capable of doing anytime the ball's in their hands.
They're great players, and even if they're playing against lesser competition, a great play is a great play, and seeing them do things physically that other people can't do, it's very impressive. About Jeanty, Boise State goes to Oregon this week. If he has a big game, regardless of outcome, does he move up into that elite group of Heisman candidates?
Oh, yeah, I think so. I have been excited about this game for a while. And I think especially coming off of week 1, where you saw what Boise State did, even beyond Jeanty. I mean, because just to win that game the way that they did, I thought was really impressive. And to me, they're my favorite to get the group of 5 spot in the college football playoff. I just think with the way they'll be tested throughout the Mountain West season. So I was already excited to see them. And then you see Oregon, an uncomfortable win against Idaho, where you thought that they were just going to roll. You thought that they would be one of those, 40-point blowout wins. So I think it creates really interesting storylines. I do really like Oregon. I think it's an incredibly talented team and play a lot better than they did in their opener. But it's a great time to catch them if you're Boise State, right? And they're still figuring some stuff out, or they're struggling to finish drives. So it's going to be really fascinating. I think a lot of great offensive players in this game. I think Dylan Gabriel is someone who's an obvious favorite to win the Heisman Trophy, assuming that Oregon has the type of season that they're capable of. So I think it's a great spotlight, and especially against a defensive front that Dan Lanning has built to replicate SEC fronts. They're going to be really physical. Like it's going to be one where we won't have to say anything about the level of competition. I think that's awesome. Like you need these spotlight games, no matter when they fall in the season. You'd love to have your Heisman moments and your opportunities in November, certainly. But again, a lot of this, especially when you're maybe not in a team that's in Alabama or Georgia or Michigan or Ohio State, is about getting on people's radar. It's about having those moments. So then you're tracking them, you're following them over the course of the season. So that's what I think is so huge for Jeanty coming up here this weekend against a team that is kind of reeling a little bit off of a less than stellar opening debut.
Yeah, absolutely. Going into the season, what players were on your short list for the Heisman?
Well, Dylan Gabriel and Cam Ward. I know we've talked a lot about them so far today, but I just think that I love the experienced quarterbacks when they go into the portal and really like you're hoping that they find a great fit and they can have that kind of season that we saw like out of a Michael Penix or a Bo Nix, where like that's the goal of the portal. And so I think that Dylan Gabriel is going to be that guy for Oregon. I think Cam Ward just showed us in week 1 that he can be that guy for Miami. So I think that's where I start. I think there's some players, like a Travis Hunter that, we're on people's radars and you're going to have to see right about the usage and about like, Colorado might lose some games. Can he still stay in the mix there? But that's the kind of player that I hope does. There's been the last couple of years, we've had really high expectations for like a Harold Perkins at LSU, maybe defensive players. You're trying to figure out like, hey, where can they get the stats and the moments to really stay in the mix? But ultimately, like it is going to be a lot of quarterbacks and it is going to be the quarterbacks of the best programs in the country. I do think that there's a chance for maybe some of the skill position players, maybe at an Ohio State, like we saw with Marvin Harrison Jr. They're really high in Jeremiah Smith. I know he's a freshman, so maybe that's not a Heisman watch for this year, but that's obviously a player to watch moving forward. I think Jackson Dart, again, lesser competition, but was spectacular, right? He's putting up video game numbers in Ole Miss's opener. I think that that's a team that's going to make the playoff in year 1 of the 12-team college football playoff. So him and Nico at Tennessee, I think those players are going to be so key for the success of their programs this year with an SEC schedule, with the spotlight that comes with being the quarterback at Ole Miss and Tennessee, that I think those are guys that can absolutely, if they're not already in the mix, can play themselves into the mix. And what we saw to them in week 1 shows that they're ready. Like all cylinders are firing for those quarterbacks. So I would love to see that. I think Dart would be probably in my upper tier already, though, I would say.
Okay. And were there any other players that emerged out of week 1 besides McMillan or Jeanty who you think might be able to position themselves going forward?
I mean, I think those are the 2 clear players. I think, and then maybe Miller Moss, because I think seeing that it wasn't a fluke in the bowl game, that he has this skill set in a Lincoln Riley offense on a team that has an improved defense. They'll have a real chance to maybe contend in the Big Ten in year 1. I think that opens up a lot of opportunities for Miller Moss. And especially just coming off of when you have a head coach that has coached so many Heisman Trophy winners, you just know that conversation will be there around him. So I would put him in that grouping, but no, I think it's the 2 guys we've been highlighting. I mean, their stat lines are better than a number of teams' entire offenses through week 1. So you got to go with those guys. And I think it's absolutely deserved, and I hope they stay in the mix.
Yeah, one stat I actually, speaking of Moss, I thought of this morning was, in his first 2 starts as a player, he's beaten 2 ranked teams away from home, 750 yards in the first 2 games, 194 efficiency rating, 7 touchdowns. I'm just curious, do you know of any players or quarterbacks who have had their first 2 starts away from home and beaten 2 ranked teams?
Nothing's coming to mind, because it's the idea of actually playing like on the road or neutral sites, like for multiple games to start a career seems so rare. But also, just the level of competition that they faced was just, I think, really impressive. And so I love that. And then actually, you know what? I'll give you one more guy who impressed me coming out of week one, Dylan Raiola. Huge expectations for the 5-star freshman starting right away at Nebraska. And he puts up offensive numbers that entire offense did not have last year, 200 passing yards. Doesn't make mistakes, not turning the ball over, the things that Nebraska really needs. And they have a huge spotlight game against Colorado this week. So I think I'm going to give you a prediction for, I'm going to try to do my little voodoo magic that you guys are doing of looking into the crystal ball. I think that's who we're going to be talking about coming out of week 2.
That's a great tab because I've, we've been looking at him for a while in the offseason, just since seeing that spring game. He definitely looked very impressive. So Dylan Raiola, we're keeping an eye on you too. So looking ahead to next week, not a huge week, but we've got big matchup with Texas at Michigan, Tennessee at NC State. Those are the only 2 matchups between ranked teams, although I don't think we've had the reconfigured rankings yet at this point in the recording. What are you looking forward to the most for this weekend and those matchups in particular?
Yeah, I mean, I think the big questions with Michigan are, about the offensive line and complete turnover, right, at the O-line, but also most of the offense. Colson Loveland, the only returning starter on the offense. And you really saw them struggle. I mean, Fresno State is a good Group of 5 program, but they were really pushing them around at the at the line of scrimmage in that opener, which was kind of uncomfortable for a large portion of the game for Michigan and Michigan fans. So they have a lot of work to do. I think they need to figure out, it looked a lot harder for them to run the ball than it has in years past. That's such a staple of the way that Jim Harbaugh and Sharon Moore wanted to win games and control games. And I think that's going to be a huge challenge against a Texas team that is just loaded, coming off a CFP appearance. They rolled in week 1. They have all of that continuity and experience and confidence. Yes, they've had some injuries at the running back position on their side, but I just feel like they're so much more ready for this game to be here in week 2 than Michigan, which still needs to figure out a lot of things, including so much turnover on the coaching staff. So I trust the Michigan defense. I think that versus Quinn Ewers and company will be a fascinating matchup. But, if Michigan is getting pushed around when they have the ball, if they can't run the ball and eat some clock, if they can't keep their offense on the field, then it's going to be a struggle. So that's kind of what I'm focused on in that game. But I think we'll learn a lot about both teams. If Michigan loses, don't have to write them off completely because we know 12-team playoff. But for Texas, really big opportunity to get a giant feather in the cap for their playoff resume. And I think they're going to win the game. I think they're going to make that statement. And I think Quinn Ewers, he's a guy we haven't talked about him a ton today, but that's a guy that's obviously in the mix for the Heisman as well. And I think that he was a huge part of Texas breaking through last year, and they don't have plans to go anywhere. And so I think they're going to try to make a statement here in Ann Arbor on the road in this environment early in the season.
Well, certainly, if you're a fan of Michigan and you live in Ann Arbor and go to the games, you get in Texas this week and USC a few weeks later, kind of just a great series of matchups. Okay. Lastly, you moved on from The Athletic to your new job at NBC. Tell us about your new responsibilities, how you're enjoying the new position, where our listeners can find you and on the various platforms.
Yeah, it's been great so far. I did some work with NBC last year, so it's kind of just expanding on that and making it the full-time role. So I'm part of our Big Ten Countdown shows. So these are the pregame shows for the Big Ten primetime Saturday night game. We do halftimes as well. We do the pregame and halftimes for all the Notre Dame games and everything that's on Peacock too. So we're, in that halftime that, don't turn us off in the middle of a Peacock game either. Yeah. So that's really fun on Saturdays, get to watch all the games in our green room with my colleagues and just have 16 screens up at all times. So you get to watch everything. And then I'm writing a few times a week for NBCSports.com and podcasting each week with Joshua Perry, former Ohio State national champion, one of my closest friends. So it's a really great mix. I feel like, we were talking about this before we, started recording, but kind of got to do a little bit of everything these days in media. But this role has all of that. So really excited about it. But yeah, you can, I'll still be on Twitter. I'll be telling you where I am all the time. Yeah. But Saturday is pretty much, NBC and Peacock all over it all day, start to finish, including we got Boise State, Oregon. So that's going to be a late game, but we'll be there. We'll be watching it and excited to bring that one to you.
Very exciting to see you at NBC. Congratulations on the new gig, and we appreciate you coming on and appreciate your insights, and look forward to talking to you down the road.
All right. Thanks for having me.
And we'll be right back with David Higbee of Bridge Lacrosse. Thanks so much for tuning into this week's official Heisman Trophy podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to like, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Your support helps us reach more listeners just like you and keeps us motivated to bring you great content each week. Don't forget to follow us on social media for updates, behind-the-scenes content, and more. Any other feedback or questions, just email us at pod@heisman.com. That's pod@heisman.com, or drop me a note on x.com @HeismanPundit. You don't need to throw for over 4,000 yards or rush for 2,000 yards to attend the Heisman Gala. That's the annual celebration in New York to honor the Heisman Trophy winner the day after the announcement. Tickets to the gala are open to the public and will go on sale soon, so be sure to keep checking at Heisman.com for information on how to secure your seat and witness Heisman history. David Higbee is the executive director of Bridge Lacrosse, taking over the role in 2011 after becoming involved in the organization as a volunteer coach and serving as a member of the board of directors. David is a graduate of the University of Oklahoma, where he received a BS in biomedical sciences and played midfielder for the Oklahoma club team. David Higbee, thanks for coming on the official Heisman Trophy podcast.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here, and looking forward to chatting.
Yeah, it's always a big priority for us to highlight the nature of the Trust's humanitarian mission, so we try to feature and promote as many of these great charities as possible. Can you just start by telling us about the mission and vision of Bridge Lacrosse and how it was founded?
Yeah, absolutely. So the mission of Bridge Lacrosse, in the simplest term, is to use the sport to help broaden horizons. And so as lacrosse players, fans, coaches, parents, former players, current players, we all kind of understand that the network of lacrosse and the relationships that come from it are pretty unique. And I think there's opportunities, or we all think there are opportunities from the sport that are pretty unique to the neighborhoods, the demographic that we want to serve. Lacrosse is not a traditionally well-known sport. It's certainly not like football, basketball. And so there's something about having access to the sport that benefits a lot of the kids that we work with greatly. And so our mission is to expose kids and provide them a great relationship, a great, safe and fun environment. Obviously, we'd like them to be competitive and enjoy the sport, but it's really more about the relationships and then obviously the opportunities that come from those.
And you're primarily, you started out at least in the Dallas area, is that correct?
That's correct. So Dallas is kind of our home base for Bridge Lacrosse. It was founded kind of a mixed genesis timeline, but we're about 20 years old in terms of programming. Yeah. Organizationally, maybe a little younger. But our founder was a woman who just wanted to see the sport grow. Her daughters played. She'd been very involved in Texas lacrosse, getting it started. Obviously, a little bit slower to grow here in Texas versus the East Coast and the Northeast. And so she just had a passion for the sport and really wanted to connect the sport to kids of color and low-income communities. But that is our Dallas base. We actually very recently branched out to and expanded into Austin. So learning a lot about the Austin landscape, the lacrosse landscape, just making new connections and certainly trying to replicate much of our success and accomplishments in Dallas down to Austin. So it's been a lot of fun to be down there.
Yeah. In Texas, as you know, football is king. Yeah. I'm kind of curious. I feel like lacrosse is one of those sports that if you are into football and you play it, it certainly could help your be a addendum to your physical skill set as a football player. I mean, the great Jim Brown, who was arguably they say even better as a lacrosse player. It certainly didn't hurt him that he had that toughness. What I hear about him is that he just basically barreled over everybody every play and scored.
You go back and find some old clips of him playing, and it is he's just an absolute monster of an athlete on the field. And lacrosse in those days was a little bit different. And he was an absolute force to be reckoned with on the field. And there's a lot of football players that cross over into lacrosse as a spring sport versus a fall sport. So we try to pull some of those kids in, and they find a lot of success on the field coming from the wideout position or quarterback position. We have good number of our current kids are also football players or had grown up playing football.
Right. Huh. Interesting. So what challenges did you guys face in the early stages of building out Bridge Lacrosse, and how did you guys overcome them?
The biggest hurdle is just the legibility around the sport. Texas, just as a whole, just doesn't have a lot of lacrosse, and programs 20 years ago were much smaller and much fewer. And so a lot of it was just like going into schools and just showing kids, families, parents, schools something that just had never been seen before. And that's changed obviously a lot over time. It's still very much a small sport. It's non-sanctioned in Texas. It's still kind of predominantly in affluent areas. And so for us, it's, how do you expose kids to a sport and get them excited about a sport? And what's the in between, right? How you go into a school, here's a lacrosse stick. I'm Coach David. Come on out, this weekend and throw around. And that's a big jump for a lot of kids and a lot of families when football, soccer, basketball, or, those are, kings of the sporting world down here in Texas. So it is tough. It is a lot of, risk taking on behalf of our kids of like, maybe I'll try something completely new, completely different. And we also run into the issue too, where kids maybe have some, familiarity with the sport, but they see it as kind of the affluent white kid sport. And so there's definitely kind of a barrier of entry there where kids do believe that, hey, this is not really a sport for me. I'm going to stick to, these traditional sports that are offered, in my neighborhood, in my school, or, rec center. So there is a challenge in pulling kids into something that, is brand new. And I think it takes a little bit of a risk taking to try it. We have a lot of kids who love the sport, but it took a little while for them to develop that passion for the sport. Yeah.
How many kids do you have involved now in the sport in the area?
It's a great question. We're kind of an a la carte program, so kids kind of come to us in different seasons. But I believe at the end of this year, we'll have worked with roughly about 800 kids. And of those 800, I'd say about 200 to 250 are what we call our core kids that we see at all of our programming, spring season, all the way to the end of the winter season.
Yeah. And have you seen any of them go on to get scholarships on the East Coast where the sport's a lot more popular?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things we're really proud of is we do have a group of alumni who are currently playing in college on big campuses, even smaller liberal arts schools, Division III. Even we have our first kid, newly grad, who's at an NAIA school, which is starting to pick up lacrosse within kind of their sports universe. So yeah, it's a wonderful, accomplishment on our part to see our kids mature into really great lacrosse players, go through the recruiting process and find a new home to play lacrosse. One of the things that we do emphasize is, hey, if you never pick up a lacrosse stick after you graduate high school, that's totally fine with us. We hope the journey was productive and successful. We hope you loved it along the way. But we're glad that you came through. And if you have an opportunity to be somewhere maybe different or somewhere new that came from Bridge, that's our bigger wins. But absolutely love seeing our kids play college ball. I try to visit as many of them as I can. It's just a fun kind of, again, maturation of their journey and seeing them go somewhere, big to play.
Yeah. You clearly love the sport. You've been involved in it for a long time, and you like working with the kids. There must be scores of examples over the years of lacrosse bringing great benefits to the kids. Could you share with us one of those success stories where Bridge Lacrosse made a difference in someone's life?
We have tons of these stories and anecdotes about just the relationships. I'll share a personal one for me that I think is a great metric of success. Is we just recently had hosted like an alumni happy hour. We've been around long enough to where kids I used to coach as third and fourth graders are now in college, out of college, in the workforce. We actually hosted an alumni happy hour just a couple weeks ago, and we had 30 alums show up, all in different levels of their career or in college. And I'd realized at one point I'd coached every single one of them. And so to have them all come back in the organization, want to stay involved, want to stay engaged, that was kind of a huge sort of personal win for me. As an organization, we have these just great stories from families and parents that because of the organization, my kid has this opportunity academically or a relationship that came and stemmed from this organization. So, we have kids, I go back to, from the academic standpoint, exposing our kids to incredible universities that they never knew existed. We had a few kids go off into schools like Notre Dame. We had one girl go up to Dartmouth who had basically found the school from a lacrosse trip that we had taken. And so those are really, really great anecdotes that we'd like to share, is that, listen, like, this is about exposure and this is about sort of broadening the buffet of options for you all. And the academic side is obviously very important for us. Smaller scale, it's just fun to have kindergartners running around with our high school kids and these relationships and building them in a way that's very family oriented, very family centric is a big deal for us.
Yeah, that's awesome. You sound like the John W. Heisman of Texas lacrosse at this point. It seems like you have your finger in everything around there when it comes to lacrosse. speaking of the sport, what are some of the unique aspects of it that make it particularly effective for youth development?
One thing that we love to share, and especially in the recruiting side, is if you have some familiarity with other sports, which obviously most kids do, football, basketball, soccer, baseball, a lot of kids, they grow up with some level of exposure to sports. And so what we do is we'll go in and say, hey, listen, if you like football, if you've got wheels and you can run, hey, I've got a position for you on the field. If maybe you're a smaller player, maybe you're kind of put in that cornerback position, you're maybe not as tall as the next kid, we've got a place for you. We have this really great range of skill set, of athletic types, athletic size, that we can inevitably put somebody on the field with whatever level of skill set or athleticism they have. And I think that's the one thing that makes lacrosse very unique, is that you don't have to actually be the biggest, strongest, fastest. We've had players who, maybe not as athletic as, the next player, the starting quarterback of this team or that team, but they're a great attackman. They're great on the crease. They don't need to, sprint around 100 miles an hour on the field. We can put them in a single location. They can score goals. They can produce. So things like that are really important to us. Is like, this isn't really about coming in with like a strong athletic size type prototype. It's about, what do you have currently and where can we put it on the field? And I think lacrosse has more opportunities like that than maybe other sports.
Mm-hmm. Now, I may be remembering wrong, but is it going to be an Olympic sport in the next Olympics? Is that what I heard?
So excited about that. So LA in 28, it's coming in as a brand new sport. USA Lacrosse, the international lacrosse scene has been, growing, exponentially. And this is the big kind of moment, the big breaking point for the sport. So LA in 2028, hoping to make my way out there, see some of these teams go. And, obviously USA Lacrosse is going to be a dominant force, but it's really fun to watch, these smaller teams, smaller countries really develop great lacrosse programs. Japan, obviously Canada's a big power player, but, Israel's got a great team. You've got these small Mexico, Brazil. There was the Ugandan team a few years ago in the World Games was the darling of the whole tournament. Kind of their unique journey into the world of lacrosse out of Uganda. The international scene's growing, and the Olympics is obviously kind of the pinnacle of that type of environment that we want.
Yeah, and it's got to be a little bit of a selling point if there's any kids out there who have dreams of being an Olympian, and who are practical about the nature of the the challenges and the competition that it takes. If you're looking at a sport that's relatively undeveloped in the U.S. and you can have a chance to get involved with it from an early age, then certainly this probably gives you a much higher chance of becoming an Olympian than if you were doing basketball or track and field, or it's just one of those things where it's kind of a great opportunity at the right time.
Absolutely. I'll tell you the number of, during the Olympics, and they were starting to kind of announce that, this is kind of the future of the sport in the international scene, probably no less than a dozen text messages from my high school kids of, hey, coach, I'm going to win a gold medal. And, I can't wait to play in the 28 games when I'm at that age level.
So cool.
It's a lot of fun, and it really kind of brings the sport together in a fun way for us of just kind of adding a new, raising the ceiling essentially for a lot of the sport and certainly for our kids.
Mm-hmm. So how do you measure the success of your programs, both in terms of the athletic achievement and also the broader life skills?
Yeah, it's a hard metric, right? Of, how do you know that what you're inputting into these kids is going to ultimately lead them to some level of success? And there's no perfect metric for what a successful, adult looks like, or a successful childhood looks like. And, for us, we ultimately just want to make sure that, all the kids that come to our organization took advantage of all the opportunities, and, perhaps they're in an opportunities or in an avenue, a career or relationship that they wouldn't have otherwise had. And so one thing that we do to kind of measure that kind of on the short and midterm is social emotional learning and intelligence. So we kind of do the surveys and we put the data together and have, much smarter people than myself analyze all that information and come back with a nice little dashboard and say, hey, what you're doing for these kids is making a difference. They're more confident. They're more assured of their college readiness. They have greater social capital because of Bridge Lacrosse. And so kind of anecdotally, we have other, great stories in that, but the data that we have from those, from this organization we partner with is pretty important to us as well.
That's awesome. What role do partnerships like the one you have with the Heisman Trophy What role do they play in advancing your organization's goals?
I mean, partnerships are huge. And, we are obviously a very small organization, now 2 cities. And so to partner with organizations that have the name recognition, that have this, massive fan base and branding, it's crucial for us. We can't grow without partners who can help help raise us up in a lot of ways. And the Heisman Trophy Trust has certainly been a huge factor in that. In fact, the first grant we received really helped us catalyze a lot of our growth. They came in at a great time, great partnership, and they were able to help us scale a lot of our capacity. So partnerships are huge, and we continue to look for big name partners that can again elevate what we do on the ground.
That's wonderful. Can you discuss some of the current initiatives or future projects that Bridge Lacrosse is focusing on?
So I'll tell you the 2 that we're really excited about is obviously we're a lacrosse organization. It is our tool. It is our vehicle. It is what we spend the majority of our time with our kids and on the field with lacrosse stick. One thing that we're getting better at and stronger at is our off-field programming. It's the academic resources. It's the sort of informal mentorship that we're trying to build out. It's the college readiness program. It's the workshops. And then it's even just the enrichment programs that we run. These are kind of our, almost like field trips. We take kids rock climbing. We take them to cultural museums and the aquarium. We took a group to do some college visits. Those are really important to us right now because it's a way to build this culture away from the lacrosse field. And so those have been really fun for us. Our hope over the next few years is to grow out the off-field programming to where it's in line in terms of dosage and participation with our lacrosse programming. And then second to that, it's Austin. Austin is still brand new for us. We're still learning the ins and outs of the city. But again, we want to replicate a lot of our success in Dallas down to Austin. And, I'm sure there's some other, expansion that's been planted somewhere else. And Texas is obviously a great market to grow organizations like ours.
Sounds like a lot's going on with Bridge Lacrosse right now. What advice would you give to other nonprofit leaders who are working to make a difference in underserved communities, especially when it comes to being involved with sports as well?
Honestly, you have great coaches and find great coaches who care about the kids who, they may not be the best at the X's and O's. They may not have been, a former pro or collegiate player. We do really well with finding coaches who just really care about these kids. They care about the mission of the organization. They want to input their, love and passion for a game and a sport into the next generation, and a generation that has traditionally been left out of, the lacrosse landscape. So we have incredible coaching staff. We have incredible volunteers that come through. We want to support and cultivate them as much as possible. I can only coach so many teams in a day. And so having these incredible volunteers and coaches come to us and say, hey, I want to give back and give back to an organization that's doing something pretty different is pretty substantial. So find those coaches, find those volunteers. Don't limit them. We have volunteers who want to continually do more and more. And so if they have an idea, we let them run with it. So it's been a lot of fun to see our staffing ranks grow, our volunteer ranks grow, because it is crucial to our mission.
Yeah. How can people get involved with Bridge Lacrosse, whether it's through volunteering or giving?
I mean, a little bit of everything, right? So a nonprofit like ours obviously sustains itself with financial support and donations. Again, referring back to the Heisman Trophy Trust as a great sponsor and supporter of ours. We have a website, obviously, with, a way to give and find out more about how to, potentially sponsor a team or, give to our, enrichment program. The other thing is advocating. We have a smaller footprint and we have organizations out there that we'd love to connect with. So, whether it's your company, whether it's another nonprofit group that does something similar, we love to work with anyone we can because we just know kind of a rising tide lifts all ships. And that's been a lot of our mentality is, we can't do this by ourselves. We have to work with schools. We have to work with community centers, reach out to us. We'll reach out to you and build something, kind of together. And then finally, the volunteering. If you even have a little bit of lacrosse background, if you want to learn more about lacrosse and being a part of the organization, we can absolutely put you on the field. We'll put a stick in your hands and put you out on the field with kids. We have coaches in our organization who have moved up the food chain, had been around for a while. They started with almost no understanding of lacrosse. One of my best coaches had never played the sport before, but just was incredible with kids, great passion for the work, and eventually just kind of learned how to coach and play the sport on his own accord. Remains one of my best coaches. And so we kind of make the joke that knowing anything about lacrosse does not, prevent you from coaching lacrosse in Bridge.
Right. Well, that's not, I'm pretty hyped up now. I'm ready to go grab a stick and get out and play. I've never played before, but it looks like fun.
It's easy to get started. We can get you started right away. So it's a lot of fun. And we have, a lot of volunteers who love what we do. And we try to support them as much as we can so they can support our kids.
Well, the Heisman Trophy Trust is definitely excited to, to be a part of what you guys do, to be a partner with you guys. And David Higbee, we are really excited to have heard everything you had to say about your organization, and look forward to touching base with you down the road.
Absolutely. Thanks again, Chris. I really appreciate it.
Did you know that the Heisman Trophy Trust has donated more than $20 million to a huge variety of charity-based groups via its Heisman Trophy Fund for Youth Development? That's right. The fund has helped countless charitable organizations that uses sports to engage underprivileged young people in educational activities. If you are part of an organization or know of one that would like to apply for funding, visit Heisman.com and click on the charities link at the top of the site. Well, that's going to do it for this week's episode. Thanks to Boise State and Ashton Jeanty for coming on. Thanks to Nicole Auerbach. Thanks to David Higbee over at Bridge Lacrosse. Be sure to come back next week, and we'll have another great guest in Missouri wide receiver Luther Burden. Have a great week. The official Heisman Trophy podcast streams every Wednesday during the college football season and is hosted, co-produced, edited, and engineered by Chris Houston. Paul Goldberg is the executive producer and editor. Special shout out to Isaac Lowenkron, and big thanks to the Heisman Trophy Trust and its executive director Rob Whalen and associate director Tim Henning. The official Heisman Trophy podcast can be found on Spotify, Apple Music, and anywhere you listen to your favorite podcasts. You can also find clips of our show on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Just go to @Heisman Trophy.